Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Co-hosting with me tonight is Ryder Lee from Raised by Giants. Ryder, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks so much for inviting me on to guest co-host with you with Ronnie. I really appreciate it, brother.
Of course, man. Yeah, I had a great time with you at the conference. We're going to have a great time tonight. And our guest tonight is the one and only Ronny Dawson. Ronny, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. It's good to be here.
All right. Well, before we bring him on and we get started, I want to remind you all that you can always get new regular episodes free on Rokfin, Odysee, and of course, all podcast platforms. Definitely check us out on Rokfin, where you get all our premium content, our regular shows, and all of the premium content from all the content creators on Rokfin. We also have our merch store up, guys. Check it out. We got some really cool t-shirts. We got stickers, bags, mugs, all kind of cool stuff. That link is in the description as well. We also have a really new cool affiliate that you should check out, especially if you want to see what goes on in our sky at night. Hoffman Optics at UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. Check out their military-grade Gen 3 and beyond night vision goggles. You can see everything with these goggles. Just be sure to put in Forbidden One as a promo code in the order notes if you make any orders. You really have to check these out, guys. They even do UFO tours. Finally, check out the great products at Ascent Nutrition. They're an amazing all-natural health and nutrition company. Not only do they have supplement categories like vitality, energy, healthy metabolism, and detoxification, you're going to see brain focus, intuition, and consciousness. I've been taking nootropic focus, and the attention is off the charts. If you're ready to optimize your meat suit, check out Ascent Nutrition. Tonight, we're going to welcome Ronny Dawson. He is a Texas oil field worker whose UFO alien encounter received international attention. He was featured on an episode of Caught on Camera on Japanese TV and made an appearance on NBC First Look Roswell Experiencer panel. He is the author of the Ronny Dawson UFO story and has been a guest on multitude of radio shows, and his story has been featured on websites across the globe. He was also recently a featured presenter at the UFO Mega Conference. Ronny, welcome to Forbidden Knowledge News. And again, how have you been?
Thank you, Chris. It's really good to be here. I'm doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great meeting you, hanging out with you and Ryder at the conference. You had an awesome presentation, and man, you have experienced some crazy shit, to say the least. A lot of my audience may not have heard your stories yet. So I really want to get into that. Plus, you have some photographic evidence we're going to share here at the end. Now, Ronny, before any of this ever happened to you, what was your life like? And did you believe in UFOs and aliens?
I mean, I kind of thought that there's a possibility of it, but I work out in the middle of nowhere, and I work nights, and I'm out there in the middle of nowhere, and I haven't seen anything. I'm thinking, if somebody would see something out there at night sneaking around, it should have been us guys. And for 24 years, I didn't see anything. And so, I was fairly confident that everything up there in the sky was explainable, and everything I had seen when I was able to explain it, even though I'd seen some wild stuff, but it was all explainable as far as I could tell. And so I was kind of a skeptic, really.
I'm a skeptic. Now, when did you have your very first experience that you really couldn't deny?
It was about 2009. We started seeing some lights moving around out in the woods where there wasn't anybody or anything out there. And I mean, it was lights that would appear in the darkness. They would drop down to the field, sit there for a few seconds, pop up 200 feet, be joined by a second one, disappear. Lights would come on in sequence over the trees, and then they would just disappear.
And where in the United States was this approximately?
This was over here in north central Texas, in the upper northern hill country of Texas. And it's a very rural area out here. And like I said, I'd been out there 24 years, and I hadn't seen anything like this. And it was really odd trying to figure out what this was. And I was kind of putting two and two together, and then I was going down the road, and 3 lights came on, and then 6 lights came on, and they were up ahead of me over the highway, and they were high up in the air, probably 1,000 feet up, huge lights. And then 3 more came on. There was 9 lights. And then I seen 3 of the lights broke off, traveled down to the ground within a 2-minute period, about a quarter mile off to my left. They shined a blue beam down on the ground. And then there was a human, like a humanoid figurine with a large head for its body walking around out there in the field. And inside the blue light, there was something darker blue being lifted. And as I got closer to this and was observing all this, trying to figure out what was going on over there, I seen a cow. It was a cow in the light being lifted, and it was whipping its head from side to side. And so at that point, I kind of, figured, okay, it was kind of what I was thinking anyways, was that these things aren't from around here. And
Right. Now you saw a cow being pulled into, did you see the craft that it was being pulled into?
I couldn't see the shape of the craft. All I could see was the craft had 3 large white lights that were whitish blue lights that were shining out of what it looked like porthole openings in it. And I could not see the shape of the craft, but I could see the beam going down to the ground. And I could see the dark blue object being lifted in it. I couldn't tell what it was at first, but I could clearly make out finally that it was a cow, and it was whipping its head from side to side, not enjoying being lifted.
Wow. You have any questions about that experience, Ryder?
Just that it's interesting that you brought up, Ronnie, that the lights were kind of different colored. You said white and blue, right? Like I've heard that UFOs, whenever they're seen, when they're multicolored and they're very vibrant and different colored lights, those are real extraterrestrial craft. And the other ones that are just white are more than likely military craft or one of ours. Is that true to your knowledge?
And I've had other experiencers see the color of the lights in my pictures and videos and stuff, and say they knew that my stuff was real just from the color of the lights. It's like
I've seen.
light.
We're going to show some of those pictures. They have very bright colored lights in some of these objects that you're showing. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
Now that's
very common.
This experience with the cow and the lights, this was all the same experience, right? This was one time?
Yeah, that was just one experience there. But I mean, I was going out during the week, and I would see lights come on over the fields and go off, and I'd see them drop down to the field and sit there for a second, then pop up. And so we were seeing some weird stuff out there before the cow abduction. And the cow abduction was a real wake-up call for me that this is probably ET. More than likely, because I'd heard about cattle abductions everywhere, but not many people in the world have actually witnessed one. But I actually witnessed one while I was driving down the highway. I even rolled down my driver's side window so I could get a clearer look at it. The thought of stopping and watching had crossed my mind. But after I seen that it was a cow being lifted, I just wanted to leave. I had seen everything I wanted to see.
Right.
It's time to go.
Did you have any other experiences where you witnessed any cattle mutilations or anything like that?
I have no idea what happened to the cow, if it got killed, taken back, or never just disappeared altogether. I have no idea what happened to the cow after that. And like I said, it was just an area of the highway I was traveling down. And so I have, the consequences of the cow. I have no idea what happened to that thing, but I can imagine what happened to it.
And how many people were with you, Ronnie, whenever this happened? Were there others with you?
No, I was working by myself, traveling down a lonesome stretch of highway between Cisco, Texas and Rising Star, called Highway 183 south of Cisco, Texas. And I headed to Rising Star to pick up a load of crude oil down there. So, and this all happened right in front of me on the highway. And the big craft, I had gotten underneath it because like I said, there was 9 lights and 3 had broken off. And then the 6 lights that were still above me, at one point, I couldn't see them anymore. It was like whatever it was up there, I had driven under the thing. So this was like your first experience then? Yeah, that was my first that's my first big wake up call. I seen and it was the thing walking around on the field. It looked like a little skinny person with a huge head on it. And there was a fluorescent greenish yellow light just glowing around it.
Did you see what happened to him or where he went?
No, I couldn't see him all that well, but I could just tell it was a humanoid with a head that was way too big. And then the light was probably 50 yards from him. And inside the light, there was something being lifted, and I could see it. I could see it rising up, and it drew my attention to it. And when I saw that it was a cow, I was like, oh, man, okay, this has just gotten real.
Man, that's weird. And so after this, you saw lights in the field. You saw these lights quite often recurring.
Yeah, you couldn't go out there almost it's like once a week you go out there. I'd work Wednesday and Thursday nights usually, and on a Wednesday and a Thursday night you could not go out there without seeing something odd. It wasn't always something amazing like a cattle abduction, but it was always a light that came on, sequenced and went off, or something odd, something that was unexplainable every week.
Now, eventually, you actually had encounters and contact with probably extraterrestrial beings. Now, when was your first experience that you made contact with something not human?
Well, the first thing that happened is I had an alien home invasion that happened in 2010, and it was not about a year after we started seeing the lights, I think it was, I don't know, it was a little bit after the cattle abduction, maybe 6 months or so, something like that after the cattle abduction. But I started seeing some UFO craft. I could almost see the craft with the light sequencing around it, and it would stay in the same position. And the lights, it had like a counterclockwise rotation, and one light would rotate out of view, and another one would come into view, and it was like a disc that had a counterclockwise rotation. And I was trying to get pictures and observing this on a couple of different occasions, and then one day in the late afternoon in the broad daylight, I seen a huge black something over a rural farmhouse on private property. It was still daylight. And at first I thought the place might be on fire because it was very dark cloud over the top of this house. But as I got closer to the house, I could see these big whitish blue lights came on in the middle of it. And I could tell that it was a UFO craft, and it started moving away from the house. Now, it was really fuzzy. Even if you'd have had a really good camera, you wouldn't have got a good picture because I don't know what was causing the disturbance, if it was some kind of a stealth or something, but there was not a whole lot of detail in the shape of the craft, but you could definitely see it was larger than the house and black and moving off. And it had four big lights in the middle, strung throughout the middle of it. And it was started moving off ahead of me. And I had a camera, and I tried to get a picture of it in the daylight, and the camera failed. The camera lens opened, the batteries were good, and the thing just froze up. I don't know if they had anything to do with it, or it was just bad timing and the camera malfunctioned. But I would have had a great opportunity to catch it right there in the daylight. I was actually following this thing out, unable to get a picture of it after the camera failed. And then the thing just turned translucent. I was waiting for it to shoot off or see how it took off. And this thing it went translucent. You could, all of a sudden it got almost like a mirage, and you could just see right through it. And it just it's like the stealth started working or something, and it just vanished right in front of my eyes.
Wow.
And this was in the late afternoon. It wasn't even dark yet.
Now, this was part of the home invasion scenario?
That was just prior to the home invasion scenario. But it actually, that was the second craft I had seen in 6 days. And I had been trying to think outside the box, and I had this 250 milliwatt green laser I'd got. And I had the idea that I could shoot this green laser at one of these UFOs, have a friend record it. And if the craft's propulsion system was bending the fabric of space around it, it should make the light appear to bend or disappear or do something odd. And my thinking was that if I could actually get a video of this doing that, we'd really have some solid evidence to present to the scholars and skeptics that what we're seeing is real, not from around here. So I contacted a friend of mine, Alan Ostrasil, who lived in a house outside of town here, and he agreed to help me in my little project. So I brought up the laser, I had the camera, and we were UFO watching in his backyard. And I had seen 2 in 6 days. This is day number 7. And we were basically UFO watching, hoping that we'd get the chance to do something like that, like I'd been hoping to do, right? So, and we sat there and we were UFO watching for a while, and I could hear military jets coming around, and I thought, we're not going to see anything with these jets messing around. But finally, the jets left, and it was about 15 minutes after all the jets had left. I was about ready to give up, and my friend Alan was the first one that seen it. He said, "My God, man, what is that?" And I looked, and there was a 4-light craft, just like I had seen over the house. It was black, and you could see some white lights on it. And the thing, it was probably I want to say a few, maybe 400 yards from us. It wasn't that far from us. It was about 100 feet above the ground. And I shined this laser around this thing. And I never did get the beam deviation that I was hoping to get. And so I told my friend Alan, I said, "Man, I'm going to shine it on this thing. Are you ready?" I said, because I was wondering if they were going to they might take this wrong. They might interpret this wrong. And my God, we might be two piles of ashes. It was one of the scariest things I've ever done was shine this laser onto a UFO. And this laser would shoot a beam about 5-10 miles easily, green beam that you could easily visibly see. And the idea was to get it on camera. Well, I shine the laser on the craft, and it just completely absorbed the beam. And I thought, man, it's not doing anything. And I looked over at him. I said, I hope you're getting all this. And the camera was laying right beside him, man. I mean, he had one job was to video record this. And he was standing there and he had his hands on his hips and he was just gawking at this thing. He had never seen a UFO before. And it just, the thought of having a camera and having a job, it just blew his mind. I mean, the camera sat right there beside him and he was just staring at this thing. And I said, my God, Al, you're supposed to be recording this. And we rushed for the camera. We got it up and pointed at it before the thing could even start running. The craft just blinked out.
Wow, man, that's incredible.
So I was frustrated. We had a great opportunity there, but we learned a little bit because I did not see the beam deviation that I was hoping to get. So if nothing else, we learned a little bit about they don't appear to be bending the fabric of space around the craft like maybe we had anticipated anyway. So.
Man, that's really interesting. Go ahead. What were we saying?
Yeah, what we were thinking was that, we'd actually catch some solid evidence here, but that didn't happen. So anyway, but the interesting thing is what happened the next night. I wondered how thank God they didn't shoot anything back at us, but I wondered what they'd think about us shooting a laser at their craft, if they would make them curious or anything like that. And I was actually firing the laser around before we seen the craft. So I actually wondered if the laser might have attracted, maybe they're curious to a certain degree and it helped to attract the craft. I don't know. But I was definitely shining the laser around before the craft showed up. And then when the craft did show up, I got to shine it on it. But the next night I came home from work and I live here at the house by myself. And I have this tabby Mancoon cat. He's a big cat. He's declawed. He stays in the house. He never goes outside. And when I got to the house, there was the cat was missing, and there was a big hole in the bathroom floor that something had clawed through the floor. I couldn't imagine how my cat had done that, but he had escaped under the house, and it was a big enough hole that I could stick my arm in, or a cat could crawl through it. And so this cat is just missing. So I call him look down through that hole, and I call the cat, and I could hear him underneath there. And he sounded like he's close. So I reached my arm down the hole and I'm feeling around trying to grab this cat. And I can't feel him. And I pull my arm out and I look off back down the hole. And there's something really scary down there looking up at me. And I can't be sure that it's a cat. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty scary looking up through the hole at me. And I thought, man, you're crazy for sticking your arm in that hole, man. There's no telling what the heck is down there. It's like a crawl space that's underneath my house where all the water pipes and gas lines and stuff are. It's not even enough room to walk underneath there. You have to crawl around on your belly, to work on the house. And so I go out of the house and I see that my access panel blocks have been pulled out a little bit. And I don't know why that is. And I call the cat, and the cat comes running out. And I grab the cat, put the blocks back. I get a big piece of tin and I patch the hole where the cat can't escape again. And I get ready for bed. And I go in there and I lay down on that bed. And I no sooner lay down that bed, than all of a sudden I hear dishes and stuff get knocked over up on the kitchen sink in the kitchen. And I'm hearing stuff getting knocked over and broke. And I'm thinking, what? And this cat is just, man, he's really on my nerves tonight. And I try to get up out of the bed to go see what's going on. And I realized that I cannot get up out of this bed to save my life, man. I am pinned to this bed. So I'm wondering why I can't move. I mean, I can move my eyes, but I can't move my arms or legs or anything. And then I keep hearing the noise from the kitchen. There's still stuff moving around in there. And then I'm thinking I'm having some kind of a health problem, a heart attack, a stroke, God only knows what. And then I hear the stuff still moving around in there. All of a sudden I hear cabinets sound like they're opening, drawers sound like they're being pulled out. And I'm thinking, well, that is not like a cat could do something like that. And I roll my eyes over to the doorway, and I can see my cat is standing in the doorway looking towards the kitchen. And he's like freaking out, like there's something besides me and him in the house. And I'm going, okay, there's something, I don't know I'm trapped in this bed. The cat's standing in the doorway. There's something else in the house, in the kitchen. And next thing I know, the cat runs in there and jumps into bed with me. And then all of a sudden I see something streak by the door where the cat was. And this thing, whatever it is black, and it's moving so fast that your eyes can't focus on it. I mean, it's streaking by. And so now I'm thinking I've got some kind of an animal or something in the house. I'm still paralyzed in the bed. The cat's walking around the bed beside me. Nothing's affecting him. And so I'm trying to figure out what in the world is going on here. And I see another one run by the doorway, and it's running just as fast as the other one. I mean, it's so fast that my eyes couldn't even focus on it. And I mean, I can't imagine what can move that fast. And so then I seen one of them run across my vertical wall. I mean, it run across the vertical wall like gravity didn't even affect it. And at that point, I was clinging to the hope that it was a raccoon or a squirrel that had gotten in my house, that I was having some kind of health problem. But now I'm starting to realize this probably has more to do with what went on last night than anything that I was hoping was going on. So I was going, oh man, this probably has something to do with, like last night we were shooting a laser at a UFO, you know. And now I got ET in my house, and he's running around in my house, and I couldn't see him, but I see him run up and down the wall like gravity didn't affect them, and they're just moving, flying so fast, and it's just crazy fast. And I tell you what, man, it was really weird, and I was going, oh man, just do whatever you need to do and leave me alone in here. And then all of a sudden I see one of them run in front of my door and stop where the cat had been before he'd run in there. And this thing run in on all fours, and it reared up on its back legs. This thing wasn't about 18 inches tall. And this is one of the ugliest things you could probably ever imagine, man. This thing, it looked like a gremlin. The movie Gremlins, after you throw water on it without the big ears. I mean, This was an ugly son of a gun, man. It was only 18 inches tall. It had a face like an old man, like its squinty eyes, a tight mouth, humanoid looking face. And it had an exoskeleton shell on it, and the shell itself had thorn appendages sticking on it. This thing was 10 feet from me, so I got a really good look at it. And it was scary looking. I mean, it had really long arms, and what would have been its hands, I don't know if you could really call them hands or like insect hands or something, man. They look really odd. And as fast as this thing was, I can't imagine, what kind of hands this thing had on it. But I mean, they could run on a wall like a cockroach, the way they were moving. And and this thing, he was looking away from me. He wasn't looking at me. I see the side view of him, and then he looked towards the other two that were running around the house. And then all three of them ran through my door underneath the bed that I was trapped on. And then they were lifting the bed up, me, the box springs, the mattresses, everything, slamming it back to the floor. And I was being bounced on the mattresses and still couldn't do anything. The cat, he had enough, man. He took off that bed. He took off around that corner out of that room. And I was wishing I could have went with him, but I was still trapped there on that bed. And they're bouncing me on this bed man, these things are strong. I mean, they're little, but they got to be stout, man, to be lifting me and the bed and the bed frame and everything. And all of a sudden the bed, they stopped bouncing it. And they start clawing up it. I could hear them tearing through the fiber of the box spring. I could hear them up underneath the box spring. I could hear them scratching on the wood. The metal mesh that's across the top of the box springs underneath the mattress. They had pulled on it hard enough that they actually bent it. And I seen the scrape marks in the wood that they left. And it was large, deep scrape marks, not like tiger claws, but something's like a dog or a bear claw, had something strong and deep into the wood on it. And they had actually bent the wire, pulling on the wire. And I was on top of this bed, and it felt like they were digging through the mattress underneath me. And I was thinking, my God, they're going to kill me. I can't do anything. I'm going to die here, and your instinct of fear is fight or flight, when you can't fight, I was horrified for a while, but then I got angry and I thought, well, it's either me or them. I'm in a fight. I'm going to struggle for life and death here. So I started getting angry, man. I started growing into a rage. I'm going to break loose from this force that's holding me. And I already had a plan. There was a golf club in the corner. I'm going to go grab a club out of that golf club, and I'm going to kill me some of these suckers. And then I'm going to take the body of this thing and take it into a newsroom and throw it on the newsroom floor and say, you want proof? There's your proof. And I was mad. I'm ready to kill them because I'm thinking they're going to kill me. And I decided when I tried to break free from that force, the more force I used, the more they used to hold me in place. And it started affecting my breathing. It started affecting my heart. I felt like I was fixing to die, man. I felt like I was fixing to have a heart attack right there. And it got hard to breathe. It felt like I was fixing to go unconscious. And so I quit fighting because I thought, man, I'm completely at their mercy. There's nothing I can do. And I just laid there, and then they quit digging at the bed and stuff. And they got over there where the gun cabinet was at. And I was thinking in my head, I said, that's where the laser's at. That gun cabinet is locked. And I know for a fact I locked that thing. The laser's locked in there. And I'm thinking, I bet these guys are after that laser. And I heard them over by the gun cabinet. And I kind of thought to myself, yeah, you suckers, this thing is locked. You're not going to get in there. And I heard them messing around over there. And then the next thing I know, it got real quiet. And then I couldn't hear them at all. It got quiet for just a second. And the next thing you know, all of a sudden my body jumped up out of that bed, and I was in a fit of rage, and I cussed real loud, and I grabbed that golf club. Now I had tried to do this 5 minutes earlier. I mean, this is a long time had gone by since I had tried to do this. Now I'm freaking out because my body is like a robot acting without my permission. It's just jumping up, doing whatever the hell it wants. And I'm not telling it to do it, and my whole life, my body has done what I told it to do. But this is the first time in my life, my body was like a robot doing something I didn't tell it to do. And I feel like a passenger riding along for the ride. Well, it was like they had blocked the signals that I had tried to send to my brain. And when they released me, that's the first thing that got processed. And that's the first thing I did. Well, but anyway, I'm already mad, got a golf club, and I go on an alien hunt. I look, and they had opened every cabinet, every drawer in my whole house. I'd seen dishes that had been knocking over and broken in there in the kitchen. They had knocked over a lamp and broke it there at the computer desk. And they had opened some drawers that were in the living room as well. And all the drawers under my computer desk had been open and left open. They didn't bother to close any drawers. They had opened every drawer, and all the cabinets had been open. And so they were definitely in my house. And then I went walking back into the bedroom. I thought, well, I know the gun cabinet was locked, but when I looked over at the gun cabinet, the top and the bottom was open, and I know it was locked. And I thought, man, these suckers, they opened that. I thought, it's that laser. They've got that laser. That laser's gone. I went over there to where the laser was being kept, and there was a laser still in its case out there in the lower part of the gun cabinet that was locked, and it was open. And they didn't take it, and I thought, well, either they didn't find it or they missed it, but the fact that they had opened the gun cap, and then it occurred to me, I'm sitting here scared to death going on an alien hunt with the golf club, and I got a loaded shotgun right here. And the reason I didn't go for the shotgun to start with was because I would have had to go into the living room and find the key to it and go back and open it, because I assumed it was still locked. And I thought, man, I could have had a shotgun going on this alien hunt. But anyway, I didn't. When I went back to where I had patched the hole where the cat was missing, they had pulled the screws up out of the wood and bent the tin that I had used to secure it down where the cat couldn't get back out again. So apparently I'm thinking they probably made the hole. They probably escaped through the hole. It was never the cat anyway. Besides, this cat's declawed. How he could have chewed a hole in my floor big enough for him to crawl out of would have taken a long time, not happened in a short period of time, like one day. And so, yeah, it was a wild I could not.
Now, one question before I turn it over to Ryder. How long did this whole kind of interaction last?
I want to say the whole ET invasion from the time that they held me down and they ransacked the house, it wasn't a very long period of time, but it felt like, it felt like it probably lasted 15, 20 minutes maybe. But it felt like it was an hour, man, and I kept fighting that force that was holding me, and then I would relax and I couldn't feel anything hold me. But when I would try it again, it would be there again. It was like, it didn't feel like anything was holding me, but when I would try to move, there it was, frustrating. Yeah. And it was
when you said you jumped up and started, doing all the reflexes and moves you wanted to do a few minutes ago, that's pretty incredible. Any questions for him, Ryder?
Yeah, so whenever you first described it, I kind of thought maybe they were like translucent kind of beings, but the way the story progressed, it seems like that they were really physical. So like you legitimately saw them, like you weren't able to see through them. They weren't translucent at all. They were literally physical beings, correct?
Yeah, these certainly were physical beings, and And people had told me, you know, why didn't you call the police? You know, and don't think it didn't cross my mind. I was like, man, you know, yeah, I would love to get the cops over here and get a forensic team over here and get some, because I know there's physical evidence in my house. And I've seen, you could get up underneath my box springs and you can see the scratches and the pull marks on the wiring and stuff like that. So I had physical evidence in my house. And people keep hollering, you know, we want physical evidence, but you have to realize that our world is not set up for physical evidence. I had physical evidence of an ET encounter, and who was I going to call? You want me to call the police? Now, the police in my town, they're not going to, first of all, they're not even going to take you serious. They're going to think you're on some kind of a drug hallucination and probably look for the meth lab. But they're not even going to take that they're not even going to take you serious. And the fact that I'm a hazardous material transport driver, I have to really look out for, and like I said, you know, if they think I'm crazy, we have a medical department that will pull me out of the truck. They will make me go through a 6-month psychological evaluation. And we get drug tested all the time. We get all this stuff, man. It's like I go through the same stuff airline pilots go through. In fact, I get my physicals with them at the same DOT doctor. So, and, you know, so you don't want to, I mean, it's hard enough just keeping your job because of your health and stuff. You know, you start making wild ass accusations and saying crazy stuff, man. They won't hesitate for a minute to pull you out of the truck. And we have short-term disability, but they don't pay nothing like what you normally make working. I mean, you're taking a heck of a cut in pay, and you don't want to go there, you know. And I was thinking it wouldn't do any good. It wouldn't have done. If I thought it would have done any good, you bet I would have called the police. If I would have had some kind of a department or government investigation unit that I could have called and said, hey, man, I seriously had an ET and home invasion. I seriously have some physical evidence. And if you're seriously come look for it, I'd be willing to let them come look for it. You bet. You know, and that's one of the things we're going to have to do as a UFO community. If you're going to take it seriously, you're going to have to set up something where if something like this really happens, you want solid evidence. You're equipped to come look for it.
Well, the UAP report did come out today. It was quite disappointing. It was only like, 9 pages, I believe. There's a larger report that's set to come out at a later date, but we're not going to really talk about that because it's coming from the government and media anyway. So I think most of it would be disinformation. But any other questions about that incident, Ryder, before we move on?
Yes. What do you think that was the purpose for them to coming into your house? Do you think that they were mad? Do you think that they were angry? Do you think it was like a warning, like don't shine the laser at our craft anymore? Was anything missing from your home that you found out later on?
That's a good question, you know, and I've thought it over pretty much. And I tell you what I think. I think these are subservient beings. This is like an alien recon team. I think they probably came and investigated the laser. They probably weren't tasked with taking the laser, or the laser would have been gone, but maybe they came and investigated the laser.
Maybe want to shake you up a little bit with the whole bed shaking thing.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea what that was about, but I think, you know, some of these subservience or their subservience is something greater. They're doing a little like a little contract job, and maybe they have a little temper themselves. Maybe they have a little playfulness. Who knows? Maybe they're just mean. And same thing with the gray. You know, I think maybe the gray aliens are tasked with connecting the biological material from us. I think they're subservient to something else. And I think this something else is the guys I met later on.
Wow. Yes.
I only seen these little guys at one time. I haven't seen them since. And thank God, you know, don't care to see them again, but I seen them up close and personal once. That's enough.
Did you happen to shine a laser on any more UFOs after that incident?
Now, I still go UFO watching, and in fact, I still use the laser because I think the laser does have the potential to attract them. I think they can probably see the laser. They're intelligent beings, so certainly they're curious beings, and I think shining a laser up in the sky, if you're not seeing anything while you're UFO watching, I don't think it hurts at all. In fact, I've done it several times and had great results when I did do it. So I would encourage it. And I was attacked by airline people at one point for being one of those UFO guys who's shining lasers at airplanes, and I'm not that guy. And I don't encourage anybody.
Definitely. Now, you said you actually met the beings that these little guys may be subservient to.
Yeah, that was in August 2017. There was another big event that happened exactly 1 year after this alien home invasion.
Yeah, let's hear it.
For a solid year after this event, I didn't see anything. I didn't see no mystery lights. I didn't see nothing, man. I mean, it was so quiet, nothing. I thought, man, it was wild. It was crazy. And I was kind of thinking, I guess I'll never see anything like that again. Well, it was March 2nd of 2011, exactly 1 year later. And I was working nights, and I was working down there at a little it's a little town called Echo, Texas, a little farming community 10 miles outside of Coleman, Texas, in Coleman County. And going down there to get a little crude oil. And I pulled up on this lease at night. It wasn't that late at night. It was like 10 o'clock. And I pulled in this lease, and all of a sudden there's a 3-light UFO came on. The lights came on. It probably went 50 yards from me, and it rose up over the trees. And the thing was fixing to fly right over the top of my truck. And I had my phone trying to get the camera open. I was hanging out of my driver's side door up to the waist. I was determined to catch this thing. And then all of a sudden it just blinked out. And I was like, wow, man, I was so close to getting a picture of it. And it frustrated me, but I thought this thing didn't leave. And sure enough, I went ahead and hooked up to my tank, gauged my oil, and did everything I got to do to do my job. And all of a sudden I seen the lights come on back out there. And I thought, yeah, these guys hadn't left. They just turned their stealth on or whatever they did, but they're still out there. I could see the lights come on, and then the lights would go off, and then the lights would move, and they would come on again. And I was getting some pictures. First time I was able to catch some pictures. So I was loading my camera full of these pictures of these things just colored lights out over the field. And didn't know I would need that memory space for later. But I was happy I was catching some pictures of it, And this thing, at one point, it disappeared. It came back on. It was sitting on the ground behind the battery over there, about a quarter mile away. And I thought, man, and I had video capabilities on this camera that I was carrying. And so I got some video of this thing. And I thought, I can't really see what's going on. It's too far away. Now you can see some lights on in the ground shining through the trees. But I thought if I zoom in, maybe I was be able to see something walking around the craft. So I started a video of it. Well, by the time I started the video of this thing leapfrogs 200 yards, comes back down again on the ground, sits there for a second, then goes back up in the air and takes off and goes into flat and travels about a mile in about 2 seconds. And I caught all of that on video. And I thought, man, I got you now, ET, because this thing, I play with model hobby rockets, man. The fastest rocket I've ever shot travels a mile in 3 seconds. So I know this thing's traveling well over 1,000 miles an hour right off the ground. It traveled a mile in 2 seconds, which is faster than any rocket I've ever launched. And I'm thinking this thing is moving, whatever it is, and you can see it. And it's changed. The lights were changing color the whole time: blue, yellow, green, red. And then when it got a mile away, and it stopped. And I actually caught it on a piece of video. Well, I kept waiting to catch. I was going to catch more. I thought maybe it'd come back, and sure enough, it did. It came back on about 100 yards away from me out over the field, and this time it was close enough. I could see this red, stretchy light. It looked like taffy. The light was stretched like taffy, and it looked like that with the naked eye. And I thought, well, maybe my eyes are tearing up because I need to blink. So I wiped my eyes to make sure my eyes weren't tearing up. And the light looked stretchy, like it looked like light that had been stretched like taffy. And I could see part of the craft. And so I took another picture of this thing, and this thing started, all of a sudden, this thing started moving at me. I mean, it started coming right at me. And then I'm thinking, oh man, this thing is coming right at my truck. My truck is sitting there. It's got all the lights on it. It's lit up like a carnival out there at night. There's lights all over this thing. And this thing is coming right at me. I'm on top of the battery. And this thing is coming at me, and it's getting closer. And I can see that the red lights are coming from a compartment underneath what looks like a disc. And I could see the stars being blocked out. And then I'm thinking, man, I don't really know how big this thing is. And I kept looking at that compartment underneath the craft, and those lights being stretching, coming out of it. And then all of a sudden I thought, well, I looked up above me. For some reason, something moved up right over my head. And I looked up, and I seen the edge of the disc was blocking out the stars, and it was starting to move right over the top of me. And it looked like it was maybe 30 or 40 feet straight up above my head. And, man, it shock scared me. I guess I never had went from being excited to scared so fast that when I looked up and seen that disc moving over the edge of me, my knees just started shaking, man. I mean, I couldn't even, I was thinking, man, you need to run for your life. I mean, I could barely pull off a walk. It's all I could do to go down the stairs. I went down underneath the tanks and I shut the valve and stopped the loading process because I had the load process already started. And I was hiding between the tanks, looking up at this thing. And I had just pulled a bunch of oxygen into this tank. It's extremely flammable. And after you suck the oxygen into it, it's very explosive. And I got this UFO right above this tank battery. And I'm sitting here in between these tanks. And I'm thinking, man, one static spark, and this thing is going to go up like a bomb. My truck is going to go up. The whole location's going to go up. And ain't nobody going to know anything. And so I thought, man, I need to get out from under here. And so I decided I walked over behind this steel separator that was a little bit further away. And it was hard walking at all. And I walked over there and I hid behind the separator and I looked up. I could see the disc over the battery. I could see there's a compartment underneath the craft. I think it's probably like 50, I don't know, maybe 60 feet away, something like that. And all of a sudden, this big white bluish light came on inside that compartment. And the red stretchy lights were still coming out of it and still looked just like they did before. And all of a sudden I could see the window seal porthole opening of this thing just as clear as daylight. And in that thing was something head and shoulders staring and looking out at me. And man, I thought, oh my God, this is a UFO. There's ET right there looking at me. And I took my camera and I took one picture and I went back in my hiding spot and I turned my back and I looked around. I seen all the darkness around me and I was just waiting for something with slimy hands and fingers to come rushing out of the dark at me. And I thought I was fixing to be going away for a while. And I kid you not. And it's no fun when ET gets that close. And I was even thinking, I'd already thought, man, if I see something rushing at me, I'm going to just chunk my phone. That way, maybe somebody will have a clue as to what happened to me. And luckily, nothing came rushing at me. Finally, the disc started backing away out over the field, and I never felt so relieved in my whole life, man, to see this thing backing away. This thing started backing away from me, and it backed off back out there about 100 yards from me over the field. The lights went out on it, and then I could hear in the distance, I could hear the roar of a military jet getting closer and closer and closer. And I seen this military jet fly right over the top. It was so low that I could actually see the jet from where I was at. It flew right over the top of the battery where this thing was at. I mean, it flew right to the point where the UFO was. And I thought, man, I'm fixing to see a dogfight, a collision or something. And this jet just made a big sweeping circle out there and then just circled and left the location. And I thought, well, I can't believe he didn't see anything. That thing, he didn't see nothing. Nothing happened. The jet just made a big sweeping circle and he took off back towards Dawson Air Force Base. And he wasn't even out of sight, but I could still see the lights on the tail end of the jet when the UFO lights came back on out there. The UFO lights came back on out there for a little bit, and then they went back off again. And I'm thinking, man, that jet didn't scare them at all, man. They didn't hide. They didn't leave. I don't know if they just went to the ground or if they just went invisible or what they did, but the jet never encountered them. But about this time, there was a cluster of 4 lights that started circling over my head. They was just making a big circle around my location, and they were slowly winding down. And every now and then the lights over the field were coming on and off. So I'm sitting here, I'm trying to load my crude oil. I'm trying to do my job. I'm watching a UFO over the field. I'm watching these weird array of lights that are doing a circle over my head. So I've got a lot going on. And the jets are gone. They don't seem like they're coming back. They're not looking for anything. They just made one big sweep and left. Well, this thing's spiraling down, and it's getting closer. And it was fixing to be approaching me from the other side of the truck. So I stopped the loading process once again, walked around my truck so I could get a picture. I started getting this memory full warnings on my camera. And I'm thinking, man, I want to get a picture of whatever this is. And there was like 4 lights, and the front light had a blinking light, like maybe an airplane light, but it was no repeating sequence. It was the oddest sequence you'd ever see. And it wasn't repeating like an airplane light would. And I thought, well, it's just like 4 craft flying in formation or something, because it's really big. And as this thing started coming at me, I could see the cloud. I could see the night sky started rolling white with like a fog. And if you've seen the movie Independence Day, when the big craft starts coming rolling out of the smoke and steam, and you can't really see it for all the smoke and steam coming off of it, that's exactly the way this thing looked. It was a big ball of rolling steam coming at me from the sky. And the first thing I seen was it looked like an arrow tip coming out of it. And on the very front of the arrow tip, there was something hot. and it was like flashing on fire. Then the wind would blow it out. It was something that was hot. It was reacting to the air passing over it. And what I thought was a light was something hot on the very tip of this thing. And it looked like an arrow tip. This thing started emerging from the steam. And what I thought might be small was, it was incredibly huge, man. This thing was large. It kept coming out and it kept coming. And man, this thing was like, it was like 50, 70 yards on both sides of me. I mean, if this thing would have fell out of the sky, it would have crushed me, the tank battery, the truck, the whole location. This thing was humongous. It was blocking out the biggest part of the stars in the skies. It started passing over my head. It looked like solid rock. It looked like I was looking at the surface of the moon. I could see the impact marks. I could see burn marks. I could see craters on the damn thing. It looked like it was solid rock. And then for a minute, I thought, man, this is like a killer meteor. This is like a meteor that's coming in to take us all out, man. It looked like a big, huge rock. And this thing was maybe 200 to 300 feet above me straight up. So it was low enough, even at nighttime, man, I could see the bottom of it pretty good. And it took 3 to 4 seconds to pass over me. And it was like 50 yards on each side of me. I mean, this thing was massive, monster. I mean, it filled the sky. I had a sky full of UFO. This thing was monstrous, man. And I kept watching this thing, and it was passing over me. Took 3 or 4 seconds to move over me. And then the first part that had moved over, this thing started slowing down, and I seen a big pipe sticking out of the bottom of it. I mean pipe, this thing was like 10 feet, like a big bale or something hanging out of the bottom of it. I thought, okay, but that's not a meteor. Meteors don't have bale-shaped pipes hanging out of the bottom of them. Then I seen another one. And this thing starts slowing down. And I mean, I've got a huge monstrous UFO right over the top of my head. I mean, if this thing would have fell to the ground, you literally need a golf cart to drive around it, man. I mean, I couldn't see most of the stars in the sky because of this thing. And it was almost, you could feel the change in the temperature at this thing. It was like the temperature had changed. And you can hear on part of the video that I recorded, you can hear it sound like the pressure of the truck idling change. Like this thing, it was there, and it started slowing down, and the first part started tipping up in the air like a skyscraper. Now it started going up in the air. Instead of going flat across the ground, it started tipping up. And this thing, now it's standing up almost like it's vertical. And this thing got a little ways up in the air, and then it just shot off sideways. And this thing took off so fast, didn't make any noise. It made huge air vortexes. It took off so fast that it made a huge air rolling vortexes behind it, almost like tornadoes, man, that this thing caused such a vacuum when it left. And you could see the fog that was trapped on the surface of this thing and being swept over it like water over a waterfall. And this big monstrous thing was moving off so fast. And I was over with this camera going, this is the picture of a lifetime and you don't want to miss it. And I thought, my God, I'm looking at my display screen, and to my horror, as big as this thing is, I'm looking at solid black. I'm thinking, I got one shot left, and I've got nothing. I've got a sky full of UFO, and there's nothing on my display screen. And got to catch this. People have got to see this. And finally, I'm thinking this thing's moving so fast. I'm thinking I'm fixing to just miss it altogether if I don't make an attempt. So I pointed the eye real steady at the thing, and I hit record on that thing. And about the time I hit the record button, this thing did a flip. It went like this, and it just flipped and started coming back at me. From now, instead of looking at the bottom of this thing, I'm looking at the top of this thing. On top of this thing, it looks like a city built on the surface of this thing. I mean, it looks like there's towers. It looks like there's building-like structures. It almost looks like a coral reef looking structures that are towering off the surface of it. There's a huge tower with a giant light on it, and an array of lights even above that. There's blue fluorescent power lines coming down this thing and stretching across the surface of this thing. There's a giant row of burning flares, like there's some kind of refinery process going on. These giant flares shooting out fire, and you could even see the smoke that was coming out of the fire that they were jetting out on them. And there's so much to see and so much to take in. And this thing, I'm looking at it, and it's coming back at me. Well, it's getting close enough now. I'm starting to get scared again. I'm starting to think about it. My camera already stopped recording, and it said memory full. And I at that point, I couldn't take any more video or no more photos or nothing. And this thing's coming at me, and I'm thinking about crawling underneath the frame of my truck and hiding. And finally, this thing just stopped. It made a big sweeping circle around my location. It took off at a 45-degree angle. And it was a giant craft moving across above the trees. It was probably a mile in total length. It was a V-shaped craft. It looked like a cigar shape, but at one point it made a little tip like that, and I could see the other leg on it. I could tell that it was a V-shaped craft. It was flying with the ends of the V first. It was like a tight V, and this thing, it had structures on the surface of it, and it went from being a huge craft flying over the trees to just 4 lights moving across the sky again, like I had first seen come down, and it did it pretty quick. I mean, within about 2 seconds, it went from ground level to up there in the sky to where it was just lights moving across the sky again. And I actually got a piece of that craft, and you've seen some of the video that I've taken off that craft. There's nothing on this thing. It looks like it's ever been touched by human hand. There's stuff on the surface of this thing. I've been trying to analyze this and get some of the best footage I could of it. And there's stuff on the surface of this thing that is not from Earth, period. And I don't know. And I filed a FAA low craft. I had some debunkers say, man, if you really saw this, you really said, are you willing to file a FAA low craft report? I said, you daggum right I am. I said, I seen the craft. I know what I seen. I seen it with my eyes. I caught a piece of it with my camera. And I said, I can guarantee you, I had no problem. I filed a FAA low craft report. I never mentioned the word UFO in the whole report. We did a phone conference call. The FAA, we did a phone conference call. They said that all known craft in the area had been accounted for without incident, and I should report my UFO to NUFOR, National UFO Reporting Center. And I thought, what? The FAA just called this a UFO. So not only did the FAA said it's a UFO, they don't know what it is. I've got pictures of it. I've got videos of it. And it ain't nothing on there recognizable by human hand. And so if that ain't some pretty good solid evidence that they're here, I don't know what else is, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I really like the detail that you have accounting for your story. It's great that you can recall everything with such detail like that. Now, I want to get to some of your other encounters. Did you have any questions, Ryder, for Ronny real quick?
Just that that's an amazing experience. I probably would have freaked out and probably peed my pants. So it's great that you were able, like Chris said, to recall all of the very detailed experience of that, you know. And it's a shame that your camera didn't get the entire shot and it was memory full. It seems to happen all the time whenever interesting things happen and we see things, like our technology just seems to screw up all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to share as many of those pictures as we can towards the end here. So when we got a little time left. So Ronny, what was the next encounter that happened? When did you actually encounter some of these beings?
You know, we've been seeing a lot of anomalies around the house, like a lot of people do, and I've caught a lot of them on video and stuff. I won't spend a whole lot of time on some of that footage. Is available on my Ronny Dawson YouTube channel that you can check out. Anomalies, a lot of Stan Romanek and other people that have seen UFOs. It's like the ET comes to your house, pays you a visit. You see some odd stuff, and I've caught some of it on camera, and some of the oddest stuff I haven't been able to catch on camera. But there's definitely some weird stuff going on here around the house. And I was convinced that not only were I seeing them, they'd follow me home. They know where I live. They've been in my house. They ransacked my house. So they definitely know where I live. And so I was kind of wondering where all this was going to head. Well, I think it was August in 2017. I was working nights. I'd come home from work, and I'd come home from work about 3 a.m. and I'd went to bed, and I usually sleep to about 10 or 11 or as late as I can because I have to work the next night as well. So it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. About 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm sleeping away. My wife is up doing her stuff because it's early in the morning. She's up doing her thing, and it's daylight outside, but I keep my bedroom kind of dark where I can kind of sleep. And anyway, I'm sleeping away, not even dreaming. All of a sudden, I have this weird dream that these two females are pulling on my arms, and I'm thinking, what? And then I slip out of the grasp, and then I'm like, man, that was an odd dream. You know, I didn't wake up, but I didn't fully wake up, but I felt like I was not. I thought that's just a dream. Go back to sleep. And then so I started dreaming again. Next thing you know, it seemed like all of a sudden they got me again. These two females got me, and they're pulling on me. They feel like they're pulling me out of a manhole cover. One of them looks me right in the eye and says, "Help us." And I realize that I'm stuck, and they're trying to pull me loose or something. I don't know. I feel like I'm stuck in a manhole, and they're pulling away at me. And I'm struggling to get loose from whatever's holding me, and they're trying to help me the best they can. And finally, they pull me loose, and all of a sudden, I'm standing up there beside them, And the first thing they do is start apologizing. And said, we're sorry for disturbing your rest. We've been observing you. We're from another world and we need to have a conversation. And I'm like, I'm thinking, what is going on? You have to realize you have to come to terms with what's going on. And I'm thinking, well, is this a dream? Is this real? What is going on? But I realize I look around, I'm in my bedroom. There's no doubt I'm in my bedroom. I was talking to two females. There's no doubt that.
Now, were they, completely solid? Did they look like they were just there with you?
Yeah, I mean, they looked solid to me, and but I was standing, and they said they said we need to have a conversation. They said this is a place where the people from your world and the people of our world are going to meet, and the people of our world are anxious to meet you, and we want to make open contact with you, and we need to have a conversation with you, and we've been watching you. And I'm thinking, okay, are this serious? And I'm thinking it's this blue. I'm talking to this blue, this one lady. She's tall, athletic, has short black hair, and she's pretty close to my face. She's got all this. She has this big ruby on her left cheek. She has a diamond on her forehead and a tattoo on her cheek. And I'm thinking this is some kind of a hippie chick or something, man. And I'm thinking if this is a prank on my wife, I don't know. I know my wife's friends. I don't know any that look like this. And I'm thinking, who in the world is this? And then I look over her friend. Now her friend, she's got big hair, and you can see something sticking out of the tip of her hair. And then she looks like a human in her face, but right there on the tip of her nose, her eyebrows and eyes look like a human, but her nose turns into a lion's mouth, and even her upper lip has these big whiskers that are trimmed off, sticking out of it, and it's like a lion's mouth. And I'm looking at that, going, okay, now if this is a costume, this is a dadgum good one. I mean, because I'm close and personal looking at this, going, okay, this is okay. And they said we're not okay. Then I started realizing, okay, all right, so there's a possibility that what they're saying is not bullcrap, right? And they said that I'm all right. I'm safe. I'm not going to be harmed. They said I'm sleeping. I said my body's sleeping peacefully in the bed. And I looked, and there's somebody in my bed, right where I sleep. And I don't know it's me because I'm here. Now, I'm not convinced that it's me. I want to go look down on my own face to see if it's me. So I tried to take a step, and I fell forward, and I stuck my arm out. My arm hit on the leg of who's in the bed, and I fell, and I supported myself for a second, but then my hand went right through the bone. It felt like I broke the leg of who that is, and then I felt the softness of the maculus underneath the bone. It's like my hand went right through the leg. And then that freaked me out, and I pulled my hand back, and then I looked down at my legs to see why I can't walk, and it looks like I don't have no legs. I mean, it looks like my legs are cut off at the knees. I can see the bed starts my legs in. I can't see through the bed or anything. It just looks like my legs didn't make the trip or something. I don't know, and I'm freaking out, going, my legs are not there. And they weighed me out of this bed like a drunk. Really, they got me by the arms. They dragged me out of this bed. And then all of a sudden I can see my legs again. And I'm realizing, and they start telling me, now look, in this place, said this is what the people of your world may refer to as a time slip or something like this, and an alternate reality. And I'm going, okay. She goes, well, now look here, we can move through physical matter here. Said, so don't panic. You're safe. We ain't gonna let no harm come to you. And she told me to put my hand on the cat ladies. And she said, put your hand on her face. And she said, now just hold still. And she said, now push. And I started pushing. I could feel her hair. I could feel her skin. And as I started pushing, my hands started sinking into her skull. And then I could feel the inside of her brain matter, and almost felt like my fingers were wet. And I jerked my hand back, and I was like, man, that is nasty. But my hand wasn't wet, but it felt wet. And I was going, all right, okay, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, I see. She goes, this is a place where the people of your world and the people of our world are going to meet. We're safe from viral, bacterial harm here. And I said, we don't want a biological cross-contamination of our worlds will be bad for both our worlds. And she said, we're safe from physical violence here. And I'm going, I see. I said, yeah. I said, a gun wouldn't even work here. And they kind of looked at each other like, should we tell him? And they said, well, we have weapons that would do work here, and sadly battles have been fought here, but we would never use them against you. And I'm going, okay. And then all of a sudden, guess who comes walking through the bedroom? Here comes my wife walking through the bedroom. I can see her plain as day, man. I'm sitting there talking to two females. My wife is like 10 feet away, walking on the other side of the bed on her way to the bathroom. fully dressed. And I'm looking at them and I'm looking at her like, why don't you see us? They said, they can't, this is where we've been observing you. They can't see or hear us from here. And I said, we've been observing you for a long time here. And she went on to this, she went and told me, she was telling me a little story about how they found us in the latter part of the 40s, our nuclear testing, sent light and radiation off one of their planets. They had been in an interdimensional battle with a malevolent species that had attacked them without provocation and tried to enslave them at one point. And they had set up some I guess, some defensive countermeasures, and they were wondering why their defensive countermeasures didn't react to the light and radiation. And further investigation, they found us in the latter part of the 40s, and God only knows what the whole story is. And maybe they shot down the ones that were at Roswell, maybe, because they were looking for malevolent species that had attacked them, and they thought maybe this was a staging area for one of their attacks, and that we were in allegiance with those guys. And so they were very cautious and doing research to find out exactly who and what we were exactly. So they didn't rush in anything, and they've been watching us for quite a while. And that would make it that they spoke English with their mouths, and that would make sense why they spoke English as good as I do. I've been speaking English since 1960. If they've been here since the latter part of the 40s, they've been speaking English 10 years longer than me. So why wouldn't they know how to speak English? And she spoke very proper English, not Texan like I speak. Even the cat lady spoke English, but you could tell she had trouble speaking. Her mouth wouldn't made right to pronounce certain syllables. And even like a person with a speech impediment, you could tell when she had a problem, she was intelligent enough to reword her whatever she was trying to say that so that she wouldn't have that problem again. And they said the cat lady was their geneticist. And I think probably the blue lady was maybe the pilot. I'm not sure exactly what her role was. And they bugged me for it. They said we've been tasked with collecting a genetic sample, and we would appreciate it if you would, let us connect a genetic sample from you. You don't have to. They said strictly voluntarily. And I said, look, you want your people of your world want to meet the people of our world, and I want the people of our world to meet the people of your world. And I said, I'm willing to help you do whatever it takes to make this happen. I'm willing to take one for the team if I have to, whatever I got to do to get this done. It seemed like the right thing to say at the time. I was in a situation to say it, and it just felt like the right thing to say. And she told me they even had the clothing. They said just watching our world has affected the world. That they were wearing clothing items that were copied from watching our world, that the people of their world have fell in love with. She said they wear ritualistic clothing there, but they didn't wear clothing on a day-to-day basis like we do. But after observing us, some things have become popular. Yoga pants for one, and blue jeans, and the other cat lady had on a white blouse for some reason. That's some of the items that have become popular on their world. The females were wearing, and she said the men weren't really privy to it because when they wanted to have sex, they had to wait for the females to take the clothing off. So the men weren't popular with the men, but the women apparently like it.
That dang clothing always getting in the way.
I know, yeah. It's just the same way everywhere, I guess.
Wow.
Anyway, and I remember earlier in July, I was at the Roswell UFO Festival, and I was talking to Stanton Friedman, and I was asking him, I said, man, if I get, I was showing him some of the pictures and a story that I had caught while he was sitting in there in the conference, and I told him, I said, if I get a chance to talk to these guys, what should I ask them? And at one point he told me, he said, tell them to show you how they got it, and I remembered that. And I thought, hey, I said, can you guys, they're busy. They got something going on here. They don't have time to ask a bunch of my stupid questions, but I thought, can you show me how you got it? Can you just show me how you got it? They said, yeah, it's easy. They said, it's easy. We can show you. She said, all you have to do is walk to this wall. Remember, you can move this solid matter, walk to this wall. There's a plate glass window right there. Not a window, but there's a picture there with a plate glass over it. And she said, just walk to the wall right here, and you'll be able to see my world. She said, the blue lady said, you'll be able to see my world. And I'm going, just right to this wall. And she goes, yeah, just go, hurry. They're like, go ahead, just go. You'll be all right. Just go. And I think she meant for me just to look through the wall, but I took it as she wanted me to walk through the wall. So I was going too slow. They were kind of hurried me, it looked like. And I was afraid the glass was going to cut my face as I was pushing through it. And I could feel it moving through my eyes and my brain. I could feel the sheetrock in the wall moving through my belly, and it just felt unnatural and not normal. And inside the wall, there was a 2x4 stud, and I could feel it going through my right shoulder. Now, you could go through solid matter, but it wasn't like mist or smoke. You can't just walk through it. It was like, it's like you have a little bit of mass and you have to struggle through mass when you go through it. So I was having to struggle through the wall, and even the 2x4 was even more of a struggle to get through it. And I even checked the wall where I walked through it. There is a 2x4 right where my right shoulder would have hit. Anyway, I think she meant for me to look through the wall, but I walked through the wall and I ended up falling. I fell in outer space. I was in zero gravity in outer space. God only knows where this is at. There's an alien planet off to my left. I could see 3 major continents. I could see thin oceans. I could see a frosty north and south pole. I could only see 1 major inland lake. There was a huge, like 1/3 of the planet had a desert area, and there was a jungle area closer to the oceans. I could see some beach lines on the thin oceans that they had. The water looked very blue and very pretty, but it wasn't wide oceans like ours by no means. And I was taking all this in, going, my God, and then I could see this rocky, ugly looking moon that looked like Phobos of Mars. I mean, it was just a solid, ugly rock that floated between me and the planet. And then I could see another moon. I thought it was a sun there for a while, but then I realized that it's just another moon, and the sunlight is being blocked from me. I'm actually looking at the dark side of the planet, but there are so many stars in the sky. It's like near the galactic center, and there's so many stars in the sky. It's like it can't get dark. It's like you could see the dark side of the planet, even from space. There's just so much light there, man. It's like it's never really dark. So I realized that, man, and there's some kind of a anomaly in the sky. It looked like a black hole. It looked like a black hole, really. I mean, you could see it clearly right in the sky. And I drew a sketch. One of your pictures I give you is a sketch of what I seen when I walked through the hole. And as I was doing that slow forward flip, and I came back up, I was head over feet looking back, and I thought, now I'm going to be able to see what I came out of. And what I came out of was this solid black crystalline box floating in outer space off this planet. Not a light on it, no kind of technological nothing, just a black crystalline box floating in outer space outside this planet. Now, inside that box is apparently my bedroom. Somehow, some way, I walked out of this thing and just fell out of orbit, right outside their daggone planet, man. And I didn't need oxygen to breathe. I wasn't hot or cold. I never felt hot or cold. And I didn't need to breathe oxygen here. I didn't feel any kind of cold or any kind of suffocation, nothing like that. I was able to just see as plain as day, but I started feeling like I was getting sick to my stomach because I had done about 3 of these over the head flips now. And I was taking everything in because, man, I was like, I want to remember every inch of this, and I was thinking, finally, I was like, how am I going to get back in? I can't just crawl back in. And finally, one of them grabbed me by the shoulder. And I was in zero gravity, of course, so I'm flipping around from side to side. And I'm afraid I'm going to fly loose, so I'm doing everything I can to hold on to her hand to make sure I don't fly off. Because you can remember, you can't grab somebody really good here because you don't have 100% mass. So I was scared to death I was going to fly off. So I was trying to help hang on. She pulled me right back to the wall, and now I'm in my bedroom again. And I'm standing up going, thank God. that was a wild trip. It was a short trip, but it was a wild one. I was glad to be back.
Wow, man, that's incredible. Now, how did this encounter end?
It ended. They wanted to collect this genetic sample, and I didn't know how they planned on getting it. And I was willing to give it to them any way they wanted it, whatever I needed to do to help them out, and be friends with them, staying good with them. And she looked at me. She said, if you wouldn't mind, you could just have sex with our geneticist here. She said she could get everything she needs from that. And I'm going, I think she just said sex. And I'm going, just have sex with her. And I said, yeah. They said, she said, I'll step out and give you some privacy, and she said, you don't have to if you don't want to. And I looked and I thought, man, this is really, she said, and then she kind of whispered in my ear. She said, look, she said on her world, she said they have sex like the people of your world shake hands and smile at strangers. And she said, even the people of my world think it's odd. She said, you don't have to. And I thought, well, I said, yeah, I'll do it. Okay. I'll try.
Hey, why not?
I'll try. But anyway, yeah, she left. The other one was, she started stripping off this imitation clothing that she had on. And I could see these brilliant stripes on her body. She had this fur all over her body. And then around her waist of those blue jeans, she had a tail wrap, a huge, like a lion's tail. And this thing was whipping back and forth. And she jumped on the bed and she said, I've been watching you and your wife. And she asked me at one point if I thought she was pretty as my wife. And I know enough about women that when a woman asks you that, the answer is always yes. You know, I said, yes. You know, I wasn't about to say yes, except for your cat-like mouth. So I said, yes, yeah, you're very pretty, you know. And she said, I've been watching you and your wife. I want you to make me feel like she feels. And she jumped up on the bed in a sexual position that me and my wife had used frequently. And I thought, oh my God, they've been watching everything. They have seen everything, man. There's nothing hidden here. They've been walking amongst us. They've seen everything you've done. They've seen everything I've done. They've known it. They know it all, you know. And even my wife had remarked at the time or two, she said, I swear I see something in the dark watching us sometimes, you know. And I was like, maybe she did see something. Man. I don't know. But anyway, she got her genetic sample. She jumped up, shot it. She got shot the ejaculate into this beaker that had this yellow handle. This light started shining over it. And these lights lit up on the handle of it. And she said, we have to synthesize it when we collect it here. We prefer raw material. And I said, well, you know, I've had a vasectomy and I'm not the best genetic sample that you can find here. There's way better. She said, no. She said, you have to understand, we need a genetic. We need biological genetic material from everybody, the masses of the people. She said, not just a few people. She said, we need the masses. They said, do you think the masses, if we had make open contact, the masses of the population would donate us genetic material? And I said, yeah, if we had open contact on a friendly basis, I believe they would. And they asked me at one point, how should we go about making contact? And I thought about it for a minute. And at first thing I told him, I said, you're going to have to give that guy laying in the bed there a piece of alien machinery that does something that we're not capable of doing, made out of material that we don't have, so that I can convince the skeptics and scholars that I'm really in conversation with you. And they said, yeah, okay. And then I thought about it. I'm going, somebody probably just take it. It would end up in the warehouse and I'd end up locked away somewhere. And I said, no, hold on. I said, wait. I said, what would be better than that? I said, a global display of alien presence. I said, bring a big ship in, fly it around until everybody on Earth has seen it. I said, it would be a big wake-up call for us. It would scare some of us. And I said, that's what we need. I said, we need a wake-up call. And I said, we need a conversation with you. We need to know that we're not alone in the universe. And I said, there are people actually on our planet that think that we're the only life in the whole wide universe. And she looked at me like, surely y'all can't be that stupid, right? But that's the way she looked at me, like, what? Really? and I said, no. I said, that's what I would do. And she said, all right, we'll pass it on the others. And they said, but it's time for you to go back. And I thought, okay, well, how do you want me to go back? And they said, well, just lay on yourself and go back. And so I went over to where I was laying in bed. I laid on top of myself. Nothing happened. I was just laying there. And I thought, man, I'm stuck here. I can't get back now. And she said, I said, well, it's not working. And she said, well, get up. She said, stand here beside the bed. She said, okay, now leap onto yourself. And I said, well, I'm afraid when I go back there, I'm not going to remember any of this. And she said, look, Ronny, this is an alternate reality. She said, when the people of your world meet the people of our world and have a conversation, they're going to remember everything that was done and said. Said, this is alternate reality. This is not a sleep state. You're going to remember every bit of this. And I said, awesome. And so I leaped onto myself, man. It felt like I fell 5 feet. It scared me, man. It fell out of my heart, fell out of my chest. And as soon as I hit bottom, man, I woke up in that bed. The room looked identical to the way it looked. My wife was wearing the same clothes I seen her walk through the bedroom in. I mean, the lights coming in from the windows the same. The lights coming in from the bedroom the same. And the clothing my wife was wearing was the identical clothing I seen her wear. I checked the stud in the wall that I went through my right shoulder. It's right where it should have been. The picture that I walked through had a plate glass over it, just like I remembered it had. The next one over didn't. But the one I walked through did have a glass over the top of it. And I thought everything fit like a glove, it fit just like a glove, man. There's not a hole in the story anywhere. So I had no
really
doubt.
Incredible.
Real deal.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great recall of that account. Now I want to get to the pictures. Ryder, did you have any questions for Ronny before we get to those?
Yes, Ronny, that was an amazing story. I'm just sitting back and trying to take that in because that's some fantastical events that you had happen to you. So I just kind of have one question. It's kind of a silly question, but I wanted to ask you in the middle of you telling the story. but whenever you were floating around out in space, were the planets that you seen circular and round?
Yeah, they were. Cause I could see one planet that looked like a water planet. It was close enough to the alien planet off to my left that I could see blue on it, and I could see white on it, and it almost looked like a water world. And the anomaly that was in the sky, I think it was like it was like a galactic center, or maybe it was a pulsar, but it was something that was sucking solar systems in. You could see, man, it was beautiful and horrifying in the same breath, man. I mean, if you could see, yeah, you've seen pictures from the Hubble telescope or stuff of these things, but to, see it right there in the sky up close and personal. And in fact, there was a few times I was looking at the planet, I seen what looked like a gravity wave move across the thing, and it made me wonder that was I really in outer space, or would they beam me up to a ship and they were showing me a projection on a wall? I have no idea if I was actually back wherever they came from in some other universe, looking at this stuff, or maybe they beamed me up to their ship in outer space to zero gravity and they were shooting a projection on the wall. So I'm still. I haven't, I don't know exactly where I was at, but I know it was a wild ride. And I remember taking it in. I was like, you got to. And that's why I made the sketch. Yvonne Smith said, man, Ronny, is this important stuff? I said, remember everything you can as quickly as you, after the event, make a sketch of it. And so I sketched this stuff out as best I could remember it so I wouldn't forget it.
Do you remember how they got you outside of your body? Do you know if it was like a technology that they used to get you outside of your body? Because a lot of people, this sounds like an astral experience to me, and a lot of people have to work hard and dedication and practice to be able to get outside of their body. A lot of people just can't do it right off the bat. So do you think it was a technology that they were using, or some spiritual technology to get you outside of your body?
Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with spirituality at all. It seemed like they were just grabbing me and pulling me out. And in fact, I even had to help them, And like I said, I'm not one of those people that astral travels. I think I've meditated twice in my whole life. And so I'm not one of those kind of people that, I've never really bought much into that, but I kind of do now that I've seen that this place actually exists. That I always thought if your consciousness left your body died, you're dead. But now that I see that, the body is a flesh suit for the soul, the spirit, or the consciousness inside it. Now it's like, man, I have no doubt that death is not the end, that death is a transition to something different, so.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. Now, Ronny, while I go ahead, I'm going to pull up these pictures. Do you have any kind of overall thoughts on what these extraterrestrial agendas may be? Do you think that there are different factions with different agendas for humanity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are, and they told me these guys have only been here since the 40s, and they said they know they're not the first ET here, and they're not friendly with the other ET that have possibly been here. And in fact, they come here looking for the people who had attacked them, and they're still at war with these guys. So, I mean, these guys they're not all good and they're not all bad, is the way it seems to me. And they told me, they're certainly not alone in the universe, and they're certainly not the only ones out there. And they said, we had better hope that the guys that attacked them don't find us. But they did say that now that they found us and that the people of their world want to be friends with us, we are under their care and protection to a certain degree.
Now, can you guys see the screen here? Can you see Ronny's picture? Is this? Can you see Ronny's picture here?
Yes. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, awesome. Now, Ronny, what are we looking at here? They're not in any particular order, so just kind of tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, the pictures on the left side are the pictures I took in 2011 of the ship that passed over me in the oil field that I took from my hiding spot. And that same ET that's looking out of that porthole window opening in the bottom of that disc is the same one that I encountered in 2017. The drawing on the right is of the blue lady that I had talked to in the visitation of 2017 in my bedroom. And you can see that's the same one that's in the UFO there that I actually caught a picture of in 2011. So, I mean, there's not many cases that I know of where somebody has an ET encounter and actually has a picture of the ET that he is in conversation with.
Right.
In this case, I do.
Now, but let's see. Let me pull that up again because I want to see. You said where is the actual picture of the extraterrestrial? Down here, at the very bottom.
Yeah, that's her face right there, and you
Okay.
can see the face on the drawing. The one on the bottom is the close-up of her face, and you can see the red ruby on her left cheek.
I see. Interesting. All right, let me pull up another one here. Now, I think this is just a screenshot from a video. Is that right?
Yeah, this is some of the anomalies that we captured around my home.
Hold on. I think I have a video here of that we could play. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, we were shooting a UFO video.
Can you see the video here?
Video.
Okay.
It was like ET decided to show up in the video and let us know that they were watching. So it was like we were doing a UFO video.
This thing behind you here, right? Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Look,
it shoots into my mouth, and for a second you can see it in my mouth, open mouth, and then it just disappears again.
Right,
this is a slowed down video, and I'm actually talking when all this is going on.
Let me play that again.
And you can see in my mouth, after this thing shoots into my head, it peers out of my open mouth as if to look to see if the camera's still recording.
Whoa, I see it there. That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. I'll play that one more time here. That is very interesting. And there it is in your phone. Wow. All right.
And I have no doubt that that's it. That is just ET trying to let me know that they're here in my home watching me. And I think they were tasked with following me. And I think they kind of like me. I think they probably watched me enough to see that I'm not a bad guy. I guess. I don't know.
Well, what are we looking at here? This is the architecture that you were talking about earlier.
This is one of the still frames of the video I took of the left half of the mothership that I caught in the video of the mothership that flew over. We've been looking for alien architecture on the surface of it. It's a zoomed in piece of the craft, and it was the only thing that I could find that resembled alien architecture. And I thought, yeah, it looks very odd.
All right, let's see what we got next. This is just what do we have here? Is this just an image of a depiction of the cow?
Yeah, that was the Japanese TV came to my house, and we went out to where the cow abduction took place, and we recorded some video and footage where the cow was abducted at over the field.
I see. Okay, cool.
And that's a piece of their footage where it aired on Japanese TV caught on camera.
And okay, this is what you saw out in space, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I seen when I walked through the wall and I fell into outer space. I was completely naked during this whole time with talking to these two, but it was kind of embarrassing for a second, but then I realized they pulled me out of my sleeping body, so they get whatever they get, you know?
Right, yeah. All right.
So I'm floating outside the black box in outer space. There's an alien planet off to my left. There's an ugly moon floating by in between me and the planet. You can see the galactic anomaly up there. That's a galactic center or whatever that was.
Cool. Very interesting. Yeah. We pull up another one here. All right, what do we have here?
This is a zoomed in picture of the surface of the mothership. I've been trying to clear the picture up for years to see exactly what we can see. As you can see on the surface of this thing, solid rock on the bottom, but the top of the surface of this thing has building-like structures on it. There's this thing towering up in the background, and it's towering up higher than the buildings are. The buildings are probably two-story buildings. So this thing is towering over the two-story buildings. And when I got a good look at this thing looks like a 40-foot alien insectoid. And you can even see the shadow of the arm. It's consistent with the direction of the light that's shining on its body. You can see the shadow that its arm makes on its own body on this thing. So the right is the sketch filter that we ran over that image, and you can see the mouth of this thing is certainly an insect. I've had zoologists look at this thing, and they said that it's not any creature that they can recognize here on planet Earth. And when I told them that and they asked me where I got the footage of it at, I told them on the surface of a UFO. They didn't want to talk to me much more anymore.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Huh. All right, let's see.
That looks
They were
like
certainly interested before I told them that.
that looks
What
like
were
the
you
mantis beans that a lot of people kind of describe and talk about.
Yeah, but you notice the arms come out of the back of that thing, and they're not like your typical mantis here on Earth. The arms come out of the back of that thing like a spider, man. You know, so and this is the picture of the disc that approached me from my hiding spot in the oil field. There, I was hiding between the tanks, hiding behind a separator. I had the courage to lean out and take one picture. That's what you seen there was that picture. You can see the disc. You can see the window, the porthole window seal opening under the craft. You can see the light shining out. You can see the red stretchy light. It looked like taffy being stretched. Looked like it with the naked eye, just as it did on the camera footage here. You can see the edge of the disc. It's a good clear picture. I mean, it's not, you can't see everything, but it's clear enough it backs up my story to what I said happened that night.
Right. Yeah, you got something. Definitely more than a lot of people get.
Those red lights had no light source. They just looked like they were just stretching outside the craft. It was very odd. Maybe caused by magnetism or who knows what.
All right, what do we got here? Now, what are these, Ronny?
This is another picture of the surface of the mothership that's zoomed in. That we looking for anomalies on the surface of the craft. You're basically getting taken aboard the UFO mothership, looking at the top of it. This big thing right here is hiding up there, and this thing is huge. Man, it looks like Chewbacca on a Star Wars thing. It's big. It's got these two eyes that are sticking out of it. It's got two arms. And when I forwarded through the footage to see if the arms moved, one of the arms actually moves. And so I think there's no doubt in my mind that this thing has two arms, and it's big, huge Chewbacca-looking thing sitting on the surface of this craft. And this craft is flying through the air like a jet, and it's got these creatures on top of the surface of it, which that would be the equivalent to one of us riding on the wing of a 747 in flight. Which shows you they have more technology than we do if they can run around on the surface of the craft at that speed without being messed with.
It's interesting, Ronny, because these beans almost look as big as the actual surface of the craft, right? Am I looking at it correctly?
Yeah, they're absolutely huge. I mean, that thing may be as big as a house. Who knows? I mean,
Wow.
but when you're the size of a house, how could you be anywhere else but on the surface of it? And like I said, these craft may be interdimensional as opposed to flying across the galaxy. So they may not be such a long trip for them. They may just have to fly through a dimensional gateway, a Stargate or something. So
now, what is this other one that I just pulled up here?
That picture there is it's the left half of the mothership as it came in. They asked me at one point to find the star field behind it to prove the size of it, to prove that I was actually in the location I was at, looking in the direction I said I was looking at the time I was looking, and the star field pattern tells a lot about when and where and the size of the craft without having to have pictures of houses and trees and stuff like that in the background. And so we analyzed the video still frame footage until I found the star field pattern in the actual UFO footage. And I was asked to do this by a astrology professor, and I was able to pull it off. So we did find the starfield pattern behind it, and it did match up to the location, time, and direction I was looking. And it does testify that this craft is indeed huge and in the Texas sky.
That's cool. All right, what do we have next here? Shadow, it's another part of the arm that we saw.
Yeah, this is a zoomed in picture of the alien insectoid, and it highlights the shadow of the arm that stretches across it. You can see the shadow on its body in the direction consistent with the light that's shining on it. All right. And while this is not a great footage, it's good enough to be freaking amazing. I mean, you know, it don't have to be great. I mean, you know,
right. Well, the fact that you got anything, most people can't, you know, aren't getting the footage at all. But you know, you're getting something here.
This picture here is some of the light anomalies that were appearing over the oil field that I got a picture of one of them. It was pretty close, and this is a zoomed in close up of what the light actually is. It looks like a light shining out of something. God only knows. I have never figured out exactly what the story is behind these mysterious lights that to this day appear all over the world, as well as here in Texas.
Right. All right. What do we have here? Oh, another picture of the insectoid. Yep, we saw that one.
That's one of the pictures that shows a good portion of the craft. That light you see on the right is on a tower of it's towering above the V-shaped craft. It's almost like in the center of the V, and you're looking at a good stretch of the left-hand side of the craft. So everything you're seeing there cover like several, probably 100 yards or more of craft surface. So you can see that the size of that alien insectoid in the background is huge. You can see that light in front of it is a row of burning flares that I had told you about that are jetting flares out, like some kind of refining process going on.
Right.
And that light that's on the right there, I couldn't tell if it was sitting on a tower and rising high above the craft or if it was actually suspended above the craft, but it did have these blue fluorescent glowing power lines that stretched from it down to the craft's surface. So I don't know if it was sitting on a tower or if it was actually flying itself above the craft while the craft was in flight.
Interesting. All right, let's go to the next one.
There would have to be some kind of like force field or some kind of gravity system on these craft, right? They couldn't just be, lollygagging around on the surface of a craft and not fall off, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And this is the blue alien lady. She had the short black hair. She had the ruby on her left cheek. She had like a diamond in her forehead. She had like a tattoo on her right cheek. And she's wearing like the exercise shirt that they found they love from our world. I got really up close to her eyes and I looked at her eyes and it freaked her out. And she told me, she said, what are you doing? I said, I just want to get a good look at your eyes. They were huge and blue and you almost couldn't see any white in them. There were white specks in them. And I said, I just want to get a good look at your eyes. And she said, tell the people of your world when we make contact, she said, all that we ask is that there be no physical contact without a request and a response of approval. And she said, tell the people of your world that. So when she told me that, I knew that I wasn't tasked with keeping keeping it secret, that I was talking to these guys and it seemed like they were establishing a first rule of contact, it sounds like to me.
All right, what do we have here?
And it makes sense that would be a first rule of contact.
Right.
Because
what are we looking at here? What's in this one?
Now, this is another creature that was spotted on the surface of the mothership by actually a YouTuber pointed it out to me. I hadn't even found it. And I researched it, looked at it. And this thing looks like a dog-like creature. You can see the muscles in its legs. You can see it's got a flat face. It's got horns on it. And it looks like a dog-like creature with horns. And the more you look at it, the clearer it gets. And I'm like, there's another creature that's right on the surface of this thing. Like I said, I can't tell you for sure if these are statues or if these are actual creatures or if these are biological machines. I have no idea. But I know they're on the surface of the UFO and they worthy of investigation.
And here's your lovely lion lady.
This is the cat lady after she's taken her clothes off. And you can see the stripes. She had these beautiful stripes all up and down her body. She had like a felt fur, like a light fur. She had that long whipping tail, like a lion might have. She had pads on the palm of her hands, even between her digits. And on her breast, it was like she turned back to flesh. That was the only part of her body besides her face that I actually saw that looked like human flesh. Was on her breast and on her face.
Wow, that is super interesting. I think I have one more video that I might have to pull up through Messenger here. This one doesn't want to play. No, it's not playing. Let's see. Well, Ronnie, if you can send me that last video through email, what I'll do is I can post it up at the end of this show here, so everybody can see what's going on in that one. But man,
yeah, that was just the original footage of the mothership that I captured. I mean, it shows the left half of a giant mothership flying through the Texas sky.
Yeah, you're gonna have to definitely email me that, because I want to pop that up at the end of this.
Like I said, these pictures are duplicatable. Anybody can take that original footage. They can get the still frame images. They can clean it up and brighten it up and do everything I did to get the same stuff that I found. I have no special talent in pulling out the creatures and stuff. It's all right there. And that video has been looked at. If I'd have been faked anything, I'd been called out a decade ago. They know what camera I use. They know what software I use. They know what degree I brightened it. They've told me everything I've done to the images. And I don't even know how to use Photoshop. Couldn't even pretend to know how to make something like that.
Right. Well, yeah, it's definitely some interesting footage. I'm going to get that video up. I think I should be able to pull it from my messenger and put it at the end of the podcast here. But Ronnie, you had some fascinating events. I know that there's a lot more that we could talk about, so I'd love to have you back on in the future. Before we close out, is there any other final questions that you'd like to ask, Ryder?
No, Ronnie, thank you for sharing your experiences, brother. I really appreciate that. It was a fascinating conversation, and thank you so much, Chris, for having me on here to co-host with you. I really appreciate it, and wish everyone the best. And keep putting your work out here, Ronnie. This is how we do this. You know, this is how we disclose the information. Disclosure is from us. You know, it's not from the government or the media. They can't. They can feed us certain information, but the real stuff that we want is coming from the people. And I appreciate you being willing to come out here and share your story with us and with Chris's audience. I appreciate you a lot.
Definitely so. Ronnie, before we close out, let everyone know where they can find your book, all your the Amazon show, everything like that.
Yeah, like I said, I put everything in a book in case something happened to me, so that the story wouldn't die with me. It's called the Ronny Dawson UFO Story. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon. And I think you could buy it at one point at Walmart even. So the book is out there, and it's got some of the pictures and stuff in it. And I've got a Ronny Dawson YouTube channel that has a lot of my videos and footage that I've posted there. And I've got stuff on Imgur that even the debunkers asked me to post it there so they could blow it up and check it for faults and stuff like that. And I've got it on Imgur. That you can just you can look in Google Ronny Dawson UFO pics, and it will show you tons of pictures that I've captured there without you having to open any risky websites or anything like that up. So it's like I said, at times I didn't want to tell anybody, but after I made contact with these people now, I kind of feel like I have a duty to tell people, you have a right to know. I need to put my pride and ego and all that crap aside, stand up for humanity and the truth, and just get it out there, no matter where the chips fall. I'm a guy, I wear my life on my sleeve of my shirt, and I don't pretend to be anything I'm not. And what you see is real. I got no reason to fool anyone.
That's great, Ronnie. Yeah, man.
Want the truth, there it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing this story with us. I think it's very important for people to hear this so they can understand what these experiences are like, and that our reality is much more fantastic than most people think. Also, Ryder, let everybody know about Raised by Giants, where they can find your show before we head out as well.
Yes, Raised by Giants on YouTube. I interview people much like Chris does once a week on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. PST. You can also find me on Facebook at Ryder Lee. You can like Raised by Giants on Facebook as well. On Instagram as Raised by Giants Pod. And again, thank both of you gentlemen so much. And please support Ronnie's work and support Chris's work as too. That's how we get through all the censorship and everything that's happening on these platforms. Is we have to comment, we have to get interaction, we have to get thumbs up. Just support. And thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Ryder. And thank
you.
you, Ronnie. Like I said, Ronnie, we'd love to have you back on in the future. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll see you again soon.